All right, there we go. This is the Sunbury Services Committee meeting for August 6th, 2025. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Capel?
Here.
Mayor St. John?
Here.
Mr. Grumney?
Here.
Mr. Ayer is absent. 3 present. We have quorum.
And I am going to make a motion to approve the minutes of our July 2nd meeting. Can I get a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Grumney. Roll call?
Mr. Capel?
Yes.
Mr. Grumney?
Yes.
Mayor St. John?
Yes.
3 yeas. Minutes passed.
Right. And since Carla is up at the podium, I take it she's ready to start with Little Walnut Creek Interceptor Sewer updates.
Yes, thank you. So I thought I would be doing a good amount of pointing, and instead of sitting down and trying to describe to the upper left-hand corner to the bottom right, I'm going to stand with the microphone and try to point to go through, especially the sanitary sewer part of this presentation. So I'm going to give you a quick update on the Little Walnut Creek project phases, and then some of the other agenda items. I do have some additional slides that have pictures of the construction that we have going on. Can you go to the next slide?
And maybe if I could just jump in before you do that. So you may remember a couple of years ago, we did try to do a comprehensive presentation of the Services Committee on all the things that are going on with respect to our sanitary sewer system. I told Carla, let's try not to go in that direction. Let's kind of focus this a little bit more. And so hopefully this will give you a clearer sense of where we are today. I mean, it's been a couple of years. A lot has changed since then, but I think we got a much better handle, I think, on where these projects stand today.
Yep, and I wasn't here when that presentation was given, but I did review the 28-page or slide presentation, so good job. I'm sure you guys are experts at this, but I wanted to really focus on Little Walnut Creek, the phases that were happening, and then talk about the timing that's anticipated for construction, which is really one of the #1 questions I get asked when it comes to development in the city. When are we going to have sewer here? And then they point to a map. So the very first map, which I do have a printout in front of you, I can see you all are looking at it. It is front and back. So the one I left sunny side up is this first slide here. This is probably the #1 document map that I share with developers when it comes specifically to Little Walnut Creek Phase 2 and Phase 3. So I did make my own edits at the very bottom, this 2A section here. I did circle around it because in the past you would have seen just Phase 2 and Phase 3. Essentially, Phase 2 would be just a little bit of sanitary sewer to connect Little Walnut Phase 1 to just north of where the future roundabout will be, in order to build some of the sanitary sewer where we already have easements acquired. So Verdantis, the design consultant, has pulled this plan set out, and we should be able to get this under construction as early as July of 2026. So with that, we also have communication that we have to do with the county as well in order to make sure that the road portion of this is completed. But from a sanitary standpoint, I just want to make sure everybody here at the city understands, roundabout, road work or not, the sanitary sewer can keep moving as long as we get there ahead of the road work, because we don't want to have any impacts to the road after we've redone these roundabouts as we move north. So Phase 2A is a very small section, so they actually think we can get it done in the first 6 months. Again, that would take us just north of the roundabout, and currently the road coming from Price Ponds comes out on Cheshire Road. Comes out at Cheshire Road, but they're going to reroute it around the current pond so that it will line up with Golf Course Road and Cheshire Road and create a 4-point roundabout, single lane. Now let's talk about 2B. So this is a much larger section, so to just north of 2A, up to approximately where the Sunbury Parkway is going to be. So we have that kind of marked out on this map, and then there will be a roundabout where Cheshire Road turns to go and connect to US 36 and State Route 37. The red portion of the map That is what is included in phase two. You can see on this map that there's an orange pump station and an existing force main. That is there today, and we currently have construction plan for upgrades to that pump station so that it can handle the pink sanitary sewer that is also under construction today under the Kittner development. We're upgrading this pump station so that it can handle this development to the north. All with the idea that eventually the pump station will come offline and this Kittner crossing and future north flow will be able to go into this Little Walnut phase two development.
Can
Yes.
I ask a question? So first of all, there's a note in parentheses to be abandoned.
Yes.
And I don't know, but you said we're not, we're upgrading it?
Yeah, so right now we are upgrading it
Okay.
because right now.
We lost power.
Did I say? I'm
Oh, there you go.
stuck
Okay.
on it. I'm sorry. So, since this, red area doesn't exist, we don't have sanitary sewer going up, Cheshire Road yet. Currently, if you kind of block out the pink and the red, this is what's existing.
Right.
So as they're building the pink right now, this pump station is needed in order to serve that Kittner development. The developer is paying for that upgrade.
That's
It's
that much.
approximately $400,000 so that they will have service waiting for phase two to be completed, which will be likely towards the end of 2028. Does that answer your
I
question?
think, except I just don't understand the abandoned language. What's being abandoned? I
The-
guess, I'm sorry.
Yep, the entire pump station. So right now, without the Little Walnut Creek.
Yep.
This pink development here
Yeah.
will tie into what is currently online for our sanitary sewer. So this will be connected. But once this is available, the pump station won't be needed. The pink will tie directly into
I
the
gotcha.
red.
I'm sorry. So it's a temporary, so they're putting $400,000 into a pump that will eventually no longer be used.
Yes, that's
Gotcha.
correct.
Okay.
And that 28 slide presentation had another alternate where they were going to be able to route a sanitary sewer through school property. And it all came to the conclusion that if we can upgrade this pump station and have Little Walnut phase two online in the next few years, the other much more expensive, longer route, which
Yeah.
also would have been a developer's expense.
Yeah.
It isn't really going to be necessary. So the 400,000 actually,
Is a bargain basement compared to what?
exactly, compared to rerouting an entire sanitary.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that.
Sure. All right, so again, when the developer comes in, we explained that phase two is going to go up to approximately where the tie-in for the Sunbury Parkway is going to come through. Now, phase three, you'll notice I have asterisks, question mark, but phase three has a few more unknowns. Essentially, it's a little bit further out. We are just now getting the design contract up and running with Verdantis in order to complete phase three, which will go from the Parkway north of 3637 and then approximately 400 to 500 feet north of the St. John Newman Catholic Church location. For that location, I am anticipating that with the construction of phase two ending in October 2028, it'll likely be a continuation of the construction further north. There is a theory that I put the asterisk there because if the design is done earlier and we're able to get through any right-of-way acquisitions that are going to be needed, we might be able to start that work sooner. Although I do believe that would be a very difficult task to follow through with. Essentially, if we were to push it forward, it would have to be specifically developer driven, and would have to have a little bit more incentive to accelerate beyond that. So these are kind of the dates that I am working with as far as When do we think we'll have phase 3 north of 3637? By the end of 2029. I mentioned the right-of-way acquisition. So this map loosely shows that the alignment for the sanitary sewer is either on the west side, left of your paper, or the east side. And it does at a few different points kind of cross over, but that alignment is the main item that the design team has to determine. And they are trying to keep the sanitary sewer, which is 36-inch diameter, so 3-foot diameter, and approximately 30 feet deep. In some places a little bit deeper. They're trying to keep that far away from the road so that we don't have to close down Cheshire Road at any point in time. So when I mentioned that we need right-of-way for a right-of-way or utility easement, that's something that we need to negotiate and determine exactly what the needs from the property owners would be. And that'll be a task that the city administrator and myself work through once we have an exhibit that shows the exact alignment and how much area we would actually need from homeowners. That process for right-of-way acquisition in each phase will take approximately a year. Okay, so that is what I have for Little Walnut Creek Phase 2 and 3, but I do have a little note down here, cliffhanger, essentially flip your page over. Just to talk about next phases because, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Certainly the Little Walnut Creek interceptor can go further. And these maps that are in front of you show a few dotted lines or additional areas that can be served in the future. So this is a little bit more of a broad picture of what the service area for this section would look like. The red that's being shown, that's all associated with Little Walnut Creek. The aqua blue green that I'm pointing to here, it has that little circle says PS, so it would be a pump station. In order to serve this green highlighted area further to the west, we can install a sanitary sewer, put a pump station online, and build additional sanitary sewer. None of that has been designed, and I do not have a timeline for any of that. Also important to note, this green area goes up to Galena Road. So we have an agreement with Delaware County Sewer District to serve that they will serve anything west of Galena Road, and to the east, that's our wastewater treatment plant. So essentially, Delaware County is currently working on solutions for anything to the west. If they get a request for anything beyond Galena Road, right now they're saying that is outside of their service area. And we would say the same thing right now with Galena Road.
This may be an ignorant question, but the green then, and well, on this whole area, do we see this as future developed land? That's why we would look to, so we're just kind of forecasting that at some point this will get built up and we have.
It's a possibility. This is really just showing the tributary area. We could serve this area.
It could, okay.
But we are not saying that this could or will annex into the city. But once the Little Walnut Creek interceptor comes online and we have different options to expand out, and we're going to want to follow our sewer along the parkway, it does make sense that people may ask about annexation or sanitary sewer service, which does and has already come up in the last year since I have been here.
Yeah, so that's an important point to note, is that it just represents the tributary area, the ways in which, water or gravity would flow. Doesn't say anything more than that.
Yeah, it's the same for the northern area too. So when I zoom out here, I really just want to make sure everybody understands Little Walnut Creek. It's kind of this, not the green area, not the northern blue area that is being served, but there's potential to go further north. And you'll see on the map on the first slide, that there are some dotted lines for potential future phases. Phase 4, phase 5. Does this become phase 2A if there's a need to do sanitary sewer further to the west or east? But right now, as it stands today, our only plan is to design through phase 3. But as we get further up, we believe that there could be a drive for additional design and sewer accommodations. These are my only 2 slides for Little Walnut Creek and sanitary sewer. Are there any other questions about this area?
I appreciate the visuals. Thank you.
Sure.
It's nice to see how much we're thinking ahead for the future in terms of sewers. So.
Well, if there's anything more you want to hear on sanitary sewers, just send me an email. Happy to
Yeah, I
participate.
wake up at night sometimes thinking about it, so.
Yeah.
All right, I want to move on then to the next item.
Surprise, it's me again.
Yeah.
So there is another handout for this if you want to go down, I think 2 slides. We had our discussion and questions. Again, I, could foresee that you wouldn't be able to read this small text on here and that anyone viewing would have their magnifying glass out to take a look. But you do have a printout of this in front of you. As you recall, the previous city engineer had a list of 50 to 80 items that were related to construction and items that were being worked on within the city. I've condensed this down to a list of 11 items, and this engineer's update report focuses a little bit more on the capital side of the engineering development. So in our council meetings, I typically touch on, the most active item to kind of keep everybody appraised of what's happening. But really quick, I did want to at least touch on each of these 11 items and kind of remind you of the system. As you know, I do love a color-coded system. And whether you like the red, orange, yellow, green, or disagree with the heat of it, this is the breakdown. So if you see red, that's a project that is actively being worked on by staff and may have council action. Orange, construction, which I think we all agree makes sense. Yellow, waiting, delayed, on hold. And I can go through that for the item that I have marked. And then green is nearing completion. So once it gets to green, that is my way of indicating that I might be ready to start pulling this item from the list. Again, this is available on the OneDrive. If you can't find it, send me a message. I'm happy to share the link so that you can take a look at it at any point in time.
And I don't necessarily say it has to be on this chart, but like when was the project, when did it begin and what was the original projected completion date? Versus, maybe it's on here and I didn't see it or not, but.
So this spreadsheet does not follow it through from design to construction through completion. It will change the different phases and I'll change the text depending upon the phase that it is in. So if it's in design, I'll typically include, you'll see at the top in the green column headers, consultant versus contractor. So essentially, if it's a consultant, that's typically design. If it's a contractor, it's then going to typically be under construction. And then I list who's actively working on that project, or at least that's the goal that I have. So I haven't followed through with design completion and then moving the same project into construction. So number 1, Walnut Street stabilization. This is one that I brought up in my engineer's report on a regular basis. The guardrail and fence has been installed. I've got the budgetary number in there. Ironside is the contractor. Completion, we were aiming for July. Sorry, it's into August. So, but we are looking to have a formal opening of the road, maybe a photo opportunity. Do we have the date to share? Not yet. Okay, so whether, so we're still looking to see when that could happen exactly. Essentially out in the field right now, though, it does have barricades out there to deter people from walking through or driving through, certainly. There will be a 25-mile-an-hour speed sign that our Public Works team is going to put up on McGill Street so that we can at least remind people, since they haven't been driving on that road in a while and it's just a block, 25 miles an hour, please. And then we also want to put some reflective tape on the end of the guardrails as well, so that there's a little bit more visual as people come down. And certainly we'll have a road closed sign where the current shed is located. I will have pictures of this project later on. Code implementation, quality-based selection process for Sunbury. So I included this on the list. It's not technically under design, but it should affect many of our capital design projects. We will be sending out an invitation to design consultants to submit a list of their statement of qualifications for different types of design work that they are qualified to do. Based on that list, I'll look through it and try to create a pre-assigned list for contractors that are eligible in different categories. Quality-based selection, this QBS process is something we've brought up a few times in here. It is commonly used by ODOT and is a best practice, and it will allow us to, for smaller dollar amounts, so $75,000 and less, direct select from the list if we've already looked at the consultant and pre-qualified them, depending upon whether they do road work or sanitary, storm work, traffic, whatever the category may be. And then there will also be a range where we can select 3 consultants or more and invite them to submit a proposal on a certain project. It's called a short list, and that's something consultants like to see because then they know that they're typically only up against a few different consultants. That range is typically from about $75,000 to $200,000 range. After $200,000, it's open solicitation. That's currently something that you can do for any project, regardless of the dollar amount. But even people not on the list would be able to submit. Essentially, it's publicly advertised and anybody can submit on those projects. So we're hoping to have our own policy in place, our own list. This should also expedite the design and getting different consultants on board and help us have a little bit more diversity in who we're using and having fresh eyes on the city. Wastewater treatment plant expansion. That's another one that I already give you guys an update on and I have later on in this presentation. So I'm going to skip that one. Same with this street improvement project. I have that update coming up as well. I've added the street improvement project for 2026. Last month we talked about getting a design consultant on board earlier. You can see I've put under consultant contractor to be determined, but I'd like to follow this QBS process in order to get somebody on board in order to evaluate and design our streets. J.R. Smith Park, we did have a Parks Committee meeting just before this. For Dantis, is the design consultant. They are at 60% design. They submitted the plans at the end of last week. I'm currently reviewing them, as well as I'll share them with Daryl and Alyssa as well, so that we can give feedback to them. We are still on track for October timeframe for complete plans, which means if we can bid it out by the end of the year and get a contractor on board, we can see exactly when they'll be shovel ready and whether or not they want to do any work over the winter to do some of the underground work, or if it'll end up starting next spring. The GRE RFBs, that's included in this update, so I'll skip that as well. Columbus parking lot. So as I go through and I update these lists, you can go to any of them, click on the link in order to see what was presented on at services in the past, or if there are updated plans associated with the projects. East Granville widening pedestrian bridge. This is another one that you guys hear about every other week, in my updates. And then the safety study for, Safe Streets for All. This is a grant that, the city was awarded in order to develop a safety action plan for the city. We've had a steering committee, and multiple steering committee meetings in order to share feedback on, different areas and, what the priorities will be. Verdantis is leading the charge there, and they are currently, preparing the final steering committee meeting. It's supposed to be on September 15th. And then with that, we'll be talking through the recommendations in the report for the priorities that we've gone through over the past, well, nearly a year. And then they're required to have a final submitted report by the end of the calendar year. And that's the engineers list. I know from time to time, you were interested in having me bring this in. I did accidentally print it on the backside, so if you thought it was two-sided, I apologize, but I didn't want to reprint.
Got excited. No, I like this. I like having it at fingertips. I have gotten online and looked at it a few times too. I won't lie to you, red still bothers me because red in visualizations means bad, but however you want it is fine. No, I appreciate this, Carla. Thank you.
Yes, I chose rainbow colors, but purple, pink, I mean, I can make some adjustments.
It's looking pretty wild after a while if you use too many colors. Yeah.
Exactly. Are there any questions or anything you'd like to see? If you think of something in the middle of the night, please send me an email and let me know.
It's sort of what John was saying. I'm interested at an extremely high level, like how many of our projects actually complete in the target time frame. But that's less something for a report out or less for something like this than more an overall curiosity that'd be interesting to put together over time.
Yeah, so I am working on, and it's not ready for next month. It will be ready whenever the city administrator tells me it will be ready. A draft of the capital improvement plan for 2026, 2027, up to a 5-year plan. It is something that will give a little bit more guidance into that timing. Which year should have design, which year should have construction, and then I'll be working very closely with the finance director on discussing the projects that have construction that will span more than 1 year. I understand our budget it's annual, but most of these projects take more than a year, especially some of the large ones. So we really have to plan and look at how we're appropriating money through the years. So there will be another document, another spreadsheet, surprise, so that it will share a little bit more information about those target years.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
I was just gonna say, some of the projects, I'll say all of the projects are, for the most part, like driven by something, either development or environmental, or, you know, we're trying to prevent loss or something like that.
Yes.
The one where I would say, are we on track, off track in terms of schedule? When we go back to like Little Walnut Creek Interceptor, the dates you had out here, like on the screen section are, I mean, they're still target dates.
Yes.
It's like what we're tracking towards. It's good to see if all development potential along that corridor completely shuts down, or if we run into right-of-way acquisition issues or environmental or anything. And let's say like the green dotted line over here, we see a lot of development potential in and around the high school or north of the high school or something. It may redirect the focus. So all I'm trying to say is there's cross impact across these projects that aren't necessarily in our control, or like you would prevent them if you could.
Yes.
But again, like we don't control all the land. We don't control ODOT in the county and things like that. So
And there will be projects that we identify that may maybe beyond what is needed, maybe more desired. And we might be looking for grant funding. Maybe certain projects don't go past a certain point if we don't receive additional funding.
Right.
So, yeah.
But then
that's-
there's also like more limited scope projects like, I mean, this is fairly big, East Granville Street widening.
Yes,
I mean, that's a large project, but it still has a scope. We know the footprint, we know generally the budget,
yes.
we know generally like the phases. So that's one that I think, to Mr. Capel's point, Mr. Grumney's point, would be a good one to measure. Are we on track at these different phases and toll gates? I mean, even our streets program is a good one that's even more, focused. Once we've locked in the scope on what we're spending, what streets we're improving. Was the contractor way off on how quick they could get it done or not? I think there's a lot of value in
Okay.
that, what they were mentioning.
It's definitely something that we can look at tracking and trying to keep a closer eye on and really watching those contract timelines that we're permitting our contractors.
All right. Yeah. Nope. Nope, we're good to go.
I just wanted to share some pictures of three of the projects and I briefly mentioned it here. Can you go to the next slide? So this is what it currently looks like out on Walnut Street, where the stabilization project is located. Looking at this picture, and the contractor is planning on going and doing some cleanup here tomorrow. But standing right in this location, I was on McGill Street, right where it will bend onto Walnut Street. You can see the guardrails in place. The fence is behind the guardrail and it is attached to the guardrail in order to hold it up in that location. You don't really get a feel for it maybe in this picture because even those trees look like they could be a little bit closer. But this picture on the side, you can really see what the drop off looks like. And if you can imagine without the guardrail and fence there, if you didn't get out to maybe get as close as you could and look over the edge, it is very daunting. So this, from a safety perspective, we felt was something that would be needed and desired by the public as we open this up from a safety perspective. Thanks. So this is the wastewater treatment plant. I'm going to try periodically to bring in pictures. I think the last one I brought in, there was very little rebar work in the aerobic digester area. You can see they're really building this area up. And it was questioned in council a little bit about the elevations. Essentially, this grassy area sits lower than the wastewater treatment plant. And one of the questions was, how does that relate to the stream essentially? And, if there was a flood, what would that look like? So I did want to talk a little bit about the dimensions. Each of the aerobic digesters are 30 feet by 90 feet long. And they are adjacent to each other and they're 2 feet thick concrete all the way around all of the walls. So it is very, very structurally sound. If you're standing on the bottom of the concrete aerators, the top of the wall is 18 feet high. The ground will come up and meet it at 3 feet below the surface. So if you're standing at the edge, I put a picture of the existing aerator. So essentially at ground level, we'll have a 3-foot lip, and then we'll also have a railing on the new aerobic digesters that are out there. So 3 feet ground, and then the 100-year flood is 4 feet lower than the ground. So essentially 7 feet lower than the top of the wall. I just wanted to share with this group, but I'm happy to share at council as well if that was something that they wanted to check in on. But they are working on their concrete pours in order to get this structurally sound. They have to pour in sections, and each time they pour the rebar concrete wall configuration, they have a pre-pour meeting with Verdantis and Accenture, our contract administrator and construction inspector to make sure that everything is set. It then cures for over a week, and they've been putting these wet burlap mats on it because concrete needs to be wet in order to properly cure.
So cool.
Mhm.
We got the next one? Thank you. This is just a quick update on the street improvement plan. Been really pushing to try and get Decker, our contractor, to work and get as much done ahead of the school as possible. School start date is, I guess everybody's in school on August 15th, which is a Friday, but they do have school starting on the 13th, which is a Wednesday. That is next week. And they haven't been able to get the milling in. So in order to work with Decker and the timing of their contractors coming in, but also be aware that maybe construction on the first day of school, it could be a little bit challenging. This is the timeline. Of course, it's hard to see. That's okay. Oh, thank you. Thanks. So Cheshire Road is going to have, they're going to mill on the 12th, which is the day before school starts. It's a Tuesday. And then they have a few portions of the road that have full depth repairs. Essentially, they'll be digging down deeper, adding stable material, compacting, so that we don't see potholes break through, which can happen if you don't repair some of those locations that have issues. And then they plan on doing the paving work on the 14th and 15th, which is a Thursday and Friday. I will note in red, any of the school days, the contractor is planning on avoiding being mobilized and impacting traffic outside of 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. So hopefully that should help with the buses. I realize there will be some midday bus action for maybe preschool and other needs, but hopefully this will minimize the impacts on Cheshire Road.
Can you refresh my memory? These crosswalks that are to the west, are those addressing a concern by a citizen that came here before us about safety crossing over to across the street and that there's not any sufficient crosswalk?
I'm not sure if I was here when the resident came, but I have heard from a resident.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's the same person, but yes, it is addressing a concern, but it also was substantiated by our school resource officers. They said they would love to see these crossings, as well as the administrator and I met with the principal at GRE and discussed the idea of putting in a crossing at this location. And then I have one more slide on Heartland Meadow as well. So I'll flip through there and we'll talk about that. But yes.
Yeah, I'm just gonna add, the Heartland Meadows one might be the one that you're remembering. We did have a resident who came in. In fact, that resident's name is Mr. Coy, Bernie Coy, who is our representative of the Joint Recreation District, who's actually gonna be at the council meeting tonight. So, so he had expressed concerns about that, but there have been other, as Carla has indicated, there were other voices as it relates to Fairland Drive, so.
And for this depiction, I'm only showing Fairland Drive because Heartland Meadows, even though we do have a crossing, which I'll show you in a moment, Fairland Drive is also being milled and filled. And that's some timing that I just wanted to make sure it wasn't happening on the first day of school, which was when they were planning on doing the milling. We were able to push it back to the following week. So they will mill the road on the 19th. I think everyone here probably has driven on a milled road, but if you're not sure if you have 2 to 3 inches lower, they often say, hey, there's a bump here. So it might not be the most comfortable, especially if you're riding a bus. It'll just be a bumpier ride for a couple of days there. And then they should be paving it at the following week.
So then will the crosswalk and the flashing beacon go in pretty immediately after that?
So we're trying to get the crosswalk and beacon in sooner. Can you go to the next slide? It shows it a little bit better.
Yeah,
That was the preliminary.
At least the beacon, I mean, the crosswalk portion will have to be done after the road is back in place.
Yes, so the paint will, but the actual beacons themselves, this is the location And I have one more picture after this that I'll show you where on Fairland Drive, they're planning on putting it. On Friday, Jess Howard is the contractor. They're going to be installing the concrete bases and then those have to cure. With the idea that they should have them up and running on Tuesday. That's a really tight time frame though. So once Friday comes around, I'll be reaching out to the schools to let them know if I believe they will actually be installed. Really that concrete base, it takes a little bit of time. So they'll go around that on Friday and put the 2 in this location and then the 2 on Heartland Meadows, which I've marked here as the location for that other crossing. Will you go to the next slide, please?
It's on cue.
The concrete work for the project has started, so a newcomer went out and installed the ramps ahead of time, so you will have seen some construction going on, and it's not complete, but this is visualizing standing essentially the driveway for GRE directly across the street. There's a driveway for the condos that are in that location. So this is directly to the west of the intersection, and the crossing beacons will be set up and mounted in adjacent to these ramps. Same for the Heartland Meadows one. I kind of marked it over here. You can see Millstone Drive. So we have moved these ramps further away from the intersection. Just from a visual standpoint, there were some mature trees in that location. And in looking at it, in order to have people cross, if they need to, if they need to, this seemed like a good location for the crossing. And I believe that's it.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Sodabrowski?
On the streets program, please just keep the police department up to speed. They can help. I did brief the SRO officers on the progress on both Cheshire Road and kind of the plan of attack, and also the crossing beacons, which they were very excited about.
Great.
But they can do a good job disseminating that information to the school staff and bus drivers and things too.
No, I appreciate that. I'll definitely reach out, and they've reached out to me as well about some crossing beacons in the area. PD will also have their lot repaved as part of this project. So I have a tentative date that I'll be sharing with the chief tonight so that they have a heads up when their lot will be milled and paved.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a good example, yeah, where a lot of back and forth has been occurring in the last week to 2 weeks. I knew you were doing it before that in terms of trying to get this schedule coordinated. I mean, but also a good example, Mayor, of where, I mean, if based upon our early conversations with the contractor, we had every expectation that they would be starting this in the July timeframe. Here we are in the middle of August, basically doing it. So this is one that didn't quite stay on the schedule maybe the way we would have hoped it would. Some of that driven by, the weather that was happening in the early part of the spring. But again, another reason to get our design work done earlier, our bids out sooner, so we can control the schedule just a little bit more on the back end.
That's the value.
All right. Thank you. With nothing else on the agenda, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Can I get a second? Second by Mayor St. John. Roll call.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mayor St. John,
Yes.